Hello and welcome to SaltWire Today for Friday, October 21st. I'm your host, Kate Walker. Police were on scene of a vehicle pedestrian collision in downtown Halifax this afternoon. Around 2:15, police say the crash took place at Hollis Street and Terminal Road. Hollis Street was closed to traffic between Morris and South Streets. There's no word on the condition of those involved in the collision. Nova Scotia is providing more financial relief for those impacted by Hurricane Fiona. It was announced today the Canadian Red Cross will receive $1.39 million to cover hotel costs for people displaced by the storm, and the United Way of Pictou will receive $200,000 to help people repair their homes. The United Way organizations across the province have already received $830,000 in funding post-Fiona. The province pledged more than $40 million in support after the storm to try and help Nova Scotians dig their way out of the messy aftermath. Emera says it's stepping back from the Atlantic Loop project days after the provincial government tabled changes that would reduce how much money Nova Scotia Power can collect. The Atlantic Loop proposal would see hydroelectric energy from Labrador and Quebec flow into Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Maine. Delaying or canceling could mean the province won't meet targets for getting off of coal and other environmental goals. This week, the Houston government introduced changes to the Public Utilities Act that will not allow the Utility and Review Board to approve an increase based on the utilities costs, aside from fuel costs and other costs related to improving the reliability of the grid. Any increases approved outside of fuel and grid reliability upgrades can't exceed 1.8% over 2 years, according to the new legislation. Emera says with less funding available from NSP, it makes it less likely it can carry on looking at the potential project. The loop was supposed to be part of Nova Scotia's plan to get off of burning fossil fuels to generate electricity. The Supreme Court of Canada has ruled in a majority decision that a developer's lawsuit against HRM can include a claim of constructive taking of land in the Blue Mountain Birch Cove area. About 1,600 hectares of land in the area has been set aside as wilderness park. The developer, Annapolis Group, has owned about 380 hectares adjacent to it since the 1950s. The Halifax Regional Municipality has refused to allow development on Annapolis's land and encouraged the public to use it as a park, including hiking, cycling, and boating. Annapolis sued the municipality for $119 million, claiming the refusal to allow development permits amounts to expropriation of the land without compensation. The Nova Scotia Court of Appeal struck down the claim of constructive taking, which could be considered using red tape to take the land without paying for it. The Supreme Court's decision released today sets aside that appeal court ruling. The decision also says that Annapolis is entitled to present evidence supporting its claim that HRM has acquired a beneficial interest by allowing the land to be used as a public park, in effect encouraging trespassing. Dates for the trial have not yet been set. Antigonish Town and County Councils both narrowly voted last night to accept a process that will see them become one municipality. But the news was met with loud boos and complaints from residents who are not happy with the amalgamation. SaltWire's Aaron Beswick has the details.
To the chants of protesters demanding a plebiscite, Antigonish Town and County Councils voted separately Thursday night to consolidate into one municipality.
We'll never be looked at in this town again.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
That little whip.
Contrary? Nay. Thank you very much. Motion is carried.
Oh! You sneaky little thing.
Ladies and gentlemen.
We're right on this, so we know we're right on this.
Where's your mandate?
Where's mandate? No mandate.
I wasn't mentioned in your campaign, you sneaky little You'll never be elected leader in this county from all it's called RSA. You hear that? Sneaky little
The county vote ended up with 5 in favour and 3 opposed, with 2 abstentions due to conflicts of interest. The town vote ended up 4 in favour and 3 opposed. After the meetings, Warden Owen McCarran and Mayor Laurie Bushy came together for a press conference.
We wanted to have an input in building the next standard condition for the future generations. Within that process, salt-making process, a plebiscite is not necessary.
But going forward, after special legislation is created by the province and put through the legislature in the spring, then it would be the transition team would be struck, and at that point, the building of the new municipal structure will start to take place.
This is Aaron Beswick reporting for the SaltWire Network.
In Truro, Millbrook First Nation held the first ever food walking cultural showcase tour in the community this week. It was a day to experience the traditional culture and land and chef up some traditional food. SaltWire's Chelsea Gould has that story.
After drumming, dancing, and prayer, community members and invited guests of Millbrook First Nation embarked on a walking tour sharing good food, showcasing traditional knowledge and land on October 18th. With salmon from our home of Listagush First Nation, Cheyenne Isaac Lode explained how to fillet a fish.
So what you do is you cut it open, you remove the guts here, and then you'll take, not a knife like this, you'll take the scale off, you descale it. So what happens is, in the morning, before 8 a.m., that's when you get your catch.
Various salmon dishes debuted at the beginning of the delicious food tour. Traveling to another field, butternut squash soup and 4 cents accompanied Gerald Lode's storytelling.
As we start to pull away from the evening sun, it gets darker and darker. You can see deeper and deeper into space, and you can see more and more stars.
Down the Wood Trip Trail, where the North American Indigenous Games archery event is taking place next year, Moose Stew waited while Garrett Glode showed how to set a rabbit snare.
Create a loop. Okay, you have your end here. Loop. You bring this in, just like this. Okay? Then you take this end right here, and you just twist it.
Back at the powwow grounds, 2 Waltus champions shared the traditional Mi'kmaq game.
So say if I got a point, and then I got that, well, that wouldn't count. If it jumped off, then you lose your turn. But if I had that, then I would have 1 point up for my collecting wood, and then the next person would come along, and then they would, if they would not, say they got a point, then they could knock my point off, and then if they got it all over, they could knock my stick off. And then so when you get three in your hair, you can ask for payday.
Some of the day's knowledge keepers included elders.
Listening to them speak and learning their teachings is how to carry on our culture and how to keep on sharing it with other people.
I want to acquire as much knowledge as I can as I get older. I don't feel comfortable teaching too much right now. I feel like I have so much more to learn, but in the future I hope to teach people like they do.
The Millbrook Health Center organized the event led by her mother Karina with beloved community partners.
I'm so happy to see my mom. She was so proud of it and she did such a good job. I'm so happy for her.
The day ended with a blueberry treat, tobacco offerings, and sharing around the fire. I'm Chelsea Gould in Millbrook First Nation, Nova Scotia for the SaltWire Network.
It's time now for a look at a new episode of Wined and Dined with SaltWire's resident foodie and sommelier Mark DeWolf. This week, we're looking into options to cook if you're looking to incorporate fermented foods as part of a healthy diet. Mark DeWolf teamed up with Jesse Palmer of Halifax's Cabbage Patch Kimchi to describe how kimchi, a fermented cabbage dish at the heart of Korean cuisine, is made.
So the kimchi making process is quite labor intensive. As anybody who has ever made pickles or anything like that knows, you have to brine the Napa cabbage. You soak it, you drain it, then you coat the cabbage with a red sauce. Ours has about 11 ingredients. You coat that by hand, leaf by leaf, then you ferment it. And once the fermentation period is done, according to the temperature and the salt concentration and the pH, then you would cut the cabbage and put it into your jar or whatever vessel you're going to use and throw it into the fridge. And then it is ready to use for cooking or any of the recipes that Mark has mentioned.
Thank you, Jessie. To see what recipes Mark has made using kimchi, go to the Wine and Dine section of SaltWire.com. It's time now for a glimpse of today's Thinking Out Loud with Sheldon McLeod. Today, Sheldon is speaking with Chris Benjamin about the health of the book industry.
It would seem to me, as someone who's not directly involved in that industry, but in speaking to authors and people who put their life's work into print, that the industry seems to be in a pretty good place in the Maritimes. Am I wrong?
I think you're right. I think the industry's doing well. I think, the pandemic was tough on everybody, including publishers, but then what posed a lot of initial challenges in terms of how to distribute books and get them into people's hands ended up being a good problem to have. One of the few good things from the pandemic, I'd say, was that people were at home more and looking to read more and put more time into that. So it became a question of how to get those books to people. A lot more digital action in terms of sales, a lot of innovation happened, but publishers have continued to thrive, books have continued to thrive. And now that we've reopened more, we're seeing people actually buy in bookstores now. After a huge swing toward digital buying, we've seen that move back a bit towards traditional bookstore buying. But regardless, people are still reading.
And for Sheldon's full conversation, head to the opinion section of SaltWire.com. Time now for the Atlantic Sports Wire, presented by Scott Squires.
The Nova Scotia U18 Major Hockey League is taking a league-wide initiative for Hockey Fights Cancer. Cliff Blair is part of the Halifax Max organization. Cliff, what can you tell us about this year's event?
This year we've gone league-wide. Generally in the past, every team's had an event, but we've never done it collectively. So this year we're all doing an event, and we're timing it out over the next 3 weekends. Our Cape Breton teams will start off this weekend. The bulk of the games will be the following weekend, the 29th and 30th, and then we'll wrap up the following Saturday, November 5th. Cole Harbour will host their event, and there is a link on the league website that you can find, and then once you click it, you can pick whichever team you want to send your donation to.
Why was it important for the league to take this initiative league-wide for all the teams?
I just think it made sense for it to be collectively. I've noticed in the past that everyone was doing an event of some sort at different times of the year, or off and on every year, and I just thought it made sense for us to do it collectively. And the Max have been doing it for several years, and we were growing success with it. Last year, we teamed up with Pictou County Weeks, and we kind of challenged each other, and we almost collected $11,000. So I pointed it out to the league that we had something going here, and we should try to expand it.
You can visit the league website at nsu18mhl.ca for more information on the Hockey Fights Cancer initiative. In Halifax, I'm Scott Squires for the Atlantic Sports Wire.
Thank you, Scott. On to weather now. Alistair Alders is off this week. Let's have a look at our 7-day board and what we can expect for the weekend. Sunny tomorrow and 17 degrees, then 18 and mostly cloudy Sunday. Next week, rain, and more rain. Right now, showers forecasted for the work week, but temperatures relatively high. That's all for now. For more extended video and full online articles, stay tuned to saltwire.com. And you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at SaltWire Today. I'm your host, Kate Walker. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you back here Monday.